The sun was setting over the small village of Kisongo, painting the sky in soft orange. Nia, only 12 years old, sat quietly by the side of her grandmother's house, her schoolbooks on her lap. She was pretending to read, but her ears caught the voices of women gathered nearby. Her grandmother, Mama Asha, spoke louder than the rest. "That child," she said with a sharp laugh, "she will never amount to anything. She is nothing but trouble. Even her cousins are brighter than her." The words cut through Nia like a knife. She froze, her eyes stinging with tears she didn't want to fall. She had always dreamed of studying hard, of one day leaving the village and building something bigger than the life she was born into. But hearing those words from her own grandmother, in front of neighbors, felt like a heavy stone dropped on her chest. The women around laughed politely, nodding along, and Nia wished she could disappear. She hugged her books tighter, as if they could shield her from the humiliation. In her young heart, she felt both shame and anger rise together. Why would her own grandmother believe she was worthless? Why would she say it so openly? That night, lying on her thin mattress, Nia replayed those words again and again. Never amount to anything. They echoed louder than the crickets outside her window. She cried quietly, promising herself she would prove everyone wrong, especially Mama Asha. But at that moment, all she felt was small, unwanted, and broken. Nia's childhood was filled with hardship that never seemed to end. Her father had passed away when she was still very young, and life immediately became a daily struggle. Her mother worked tirelessly, selling vegetables and sometimes doing odd jobs just to make sure they had food on the table. Still, there were many nights when they went to bed hungry. The house they lived in was small, with a leaking roof during the rains, and Nia often wished she could help her mother carry the weight of their struggles. But instead of kindness, Nia often faced cruelty, especially from her grandmother. Mama Asha had a sharp tongue and rarely missed a chance to compare Nia with her cousin. "Look at Zawadi," she would say loudly for everyone to hear. "So smart, so beautiful. She will go far in life. But Nia? Nothing. Just a burden." Each time those words fell, Nia felt herself shrink a little more inside, though she tried not to show it. School was no escape. Her classmates noticed everything. Her uniform was torn and patched, her shoes worn thin. When she walked into class, whispers followed. Some children laughed openly, pointing at her faded dress. The humiliation burned, but Nia bit her lip and stayed silent. She carried the shame like a second skin. After classes, while others ran home to play, Nia stood by the roadside with a small charcoal stove, roasting maize to sell. The smoke clung to her hair and clothes. Boys from school passed by and mocked her, shouting, "Look at the maize seller." Their laughter rang in her ears long after they were gone. Yet, in those painful moments, something began to change inside her. While she fought back tears, she also felt a tiny fire starting to grow in her heart. She hated being laughed at, hated being looked down upon, and hated the way her grandmother's words followed her like a shadow. But instead of breaking her, those moments slowly built a quiet determination. She began to whisper to herself, "I will not be nothing. I will not always be poor. One day, I will rise above this." Even when she counted the few coins from her maize sales, she imagined them multiplying into something bigger. She dreamed of a day when she would no longer be mocked for what she lacked, but respected for what she had built. Though the world around her only saw a poor girl with torn clothes, inside Nia was beginning to see something else. A future that was hers to claim, no matter how far away it seemed. Her struggles were heavy, her humiliation constant, but deep down she held onto a small spark of hope. And though no one believed in her, not her grandmother, not her classmates, not even the neighbors, Nia was slowly starting to believe in herself. At night, when the house was quiet and her mother had already fallen asleep, Nia would pull out a small, worn notebook she had hidden under her mattress. It wasn't fancy, just a school exercise book with a few torn pages, but to her, it was a treasure. That notebook became her secret journal, a place where she poured out the pain she could not say out loud. On one of those nights, with only the dim light of a kerosene lamp, she wrote the words that carried her heart. "One day, I will give them a reason to remember my name." She pressed her pencil hard against the paper, almost as if she wanted the letters to leave scars on the page. Every time her grandmother insulted her, every time her classmates laughed at her, those words became stronger in her. She didn't just want to survive. She wanted to rise so high that no one would ever dare to call her nothing. In her journal, she wrote about her dreams. She imagined herself owning a business, standing tall and confident. She dreamed of earning enough money to give her mother the life she deserved, to buy her clothes that weren't patched and food that wasn't just maize and beans. Nia didn't want to just escape poverty. She wanted freedom, the kind of freedom that came when you could make your own choices, when no one could look down on you because of what you lacked. During the day, the reality around her was harsh. Children mocked her when she sold maize, and neighbors gossiped that she was wasting her time. Some even said she was cursed with bad luck. But in her mind, Nia carried a picture of a brighter future. While others saw a poor girl in a torn uniform, Nia secretly saw herself as a woman running her own company, traveling to cities, shaking hands with people of importance. She would close her eyes and picture it so clearly that it almost felt real. The sound of her name being spoken with respect, the sight of her mother smiling in a beautiful home, the pride she longed to see on faces that had once mocked her. These visions gave her strength. They became her escape when life felt unbearable. Sometimes, after writing in her journal, Nia would step outside and look up at the stars. The village around her was dark and quiet, but the wide sky was endless and full of light. She would whisper to herself, "I belong up there too. I will shine one day." It was a quiet promise, one only she knew about. No one believed in Nia, not her grandmother, not her classmates, not the neighbors. But inside her chest burned a desire too strong to be ignored. She wasn't just dreaming, she was preparing. And though the world didn't know it yet, Nia was determined to turn her pain into the very fire that would make her unstoppable. When Nia grew a little older, she decided she could no longer just sit and wait for life to change. She wanted to act, even if it meant starting small. With the few coins she had managed to save from selling roasted maize, she bought a basket of oranges and a crate of bottled water. Every morning, she carried them to the busy bus station in Arusha, where travelers came and went all day. The station was noisy, crowded, and full of sellers shouting to catch the attention of passengers. Nia's voice was soft, but her determination was loud. "Oranges. Cold water," she called, weaving through the crowd with her basket balanced carefully in her. Sometimes people ignored her, sometimes they waved her away, but there were also those who stopped and bought. Each sale, no matter how small, gave her a sense of pride. Still, not everyone saw her effort with respect. Neighbors whispered when they saw her leaving home with her basket. "Look at her," one woman scoffed, "trying to act big with oranges." Another laughed and said, "She thinks she is a businesswoman. Let's see how long that lasts." Their words stung, but Nia learned to push them aside. Every shilling she earned, she tucked away carefully, refusing to waste even a single coin. Days turned into weeks, and slowly her savings began to grow. While others saw only a girl in dusty clothes running around a bus station, Nia saw something much bigger. She saw the first brick of her future being laid. She told herself, "If I can be trusted with little, one day I will be trusted with more." Her mother noticed her coming home late, her clothes carrying the smell of dust and sweat. At first she worried, but when she saw the coins her daughter brought back, she felt both proud and guilty. Proud that Nia was so strong, but guilty that a child had to carry such heavy responsibilities. Nia always smiled and told her, "Mama, this is only the beginning." One evening, after many weeks of walking under the sun and shouting her little sales pitch at the station, Nia opened her small tin where she kept her money. She had finally saved enough to do something she had been dreaming of, buying her mother a proper dress. She walked to the market, her heart pounding with excitement, and picked out a beautiful kitenge dress with bright colors that she knew her mother would love. When she handed the dress to her, her mother's eyes filled with tears. She held it close to her chest, unable to believe that her daughter, who had so little, had given her something so thoughtful. For Nia, that moment was worth more than all the coins in her tin. It was her first real win, proof that her hustle was not in vain. It was only a dress, but to Nia it was a sign, a reminder that even small steps could lead to something great. And in her heart, she whispered, "This is just the beginning." For months, Nia worked hard at the bus station, saving every coin she could. Her little tin of money began to fill, and she started dreaming bigger. She wanted to grow her hustle, maybe buy more fruits in bulk, or even start a small stall of her own. But keeping the money hidden in their small house felt risky. She feared it could be stolen or lost in some accident. That's when a girl from the neighborhood, who often chatted with her at the bus station, offered what seemed like a kind solution. "Why don't you give me the money to keep for you?" she suggested sweetly. "I can help you save it. That way you won't lose it, and when you're ready, I'll give it back." Nia hesitated at first, but the girl sounded so sincere. She thought, maybe she's right. Maybe this is safer. So, with trust in her heart, Nia handed over her hard-earned saving. Weeks later, when she finally went to ask for some of her money back, the truth hit her like a heavy stone. The girl laughed, shrugged, and said the money was gone. Just like that. Every coin Nia had sweated for, every shilling she had guarded so carefully, had disappeared. The betrayal crushed her. She walked home with her heart pounding and her eyes blurred with tears. When she told her grandmother what had happened, Mama Asha laughed harshly, clapping her hands together. "See? Didn't I tell you? You are cursed with foolishness. You think you can be clever, but look at you now, empty-handed, just like always." Those words broke something inside Nia. She shut herself in her room that night, curling on her thin mattress, feeling like the world was closing in on her. The trust she had given, the money she had fought so hard for, the dreams she had begun to see, they were all gone. For the first time, she thought about giving up. Maybe her grandmother was right. Maybe she was foolish to think she could ever rise above the life she had been born into. But as she lay there, tears soaking her pillow, she remembered her journal. She pulled it out with shaking hands and flipped through the pages. There it was, her own handwriting staring back at her. "One day, I will give them a reason to remember my name." The words felt like they were speaking directly to her heart, reminding her of the fire she had once promised herself she would never let die. Slowly, Nia wiped her face. Yes, she had been cheated. Yes, she felt broken. But this pain was not the end, it was the test. She whispered to herself in the darkness, "I will rise again. This is not how my story ends." That night became her turning point. From then on, she decided she would be smarter, tougher, and more determined. Betrayal had knocked her down, but it also woke her up. If anything, it gave her a new reason to fight even harder for the future she had vowed to create. One Saturday morning, Nia went with her mother to the local market to help sell cooked food. Her mother had prepared beans, rice, and fried plantains, and together they carried the heavy pots to their small stall. The market was alive with voices, vendors shouting prices, women bargaining, children running around. The smell of spices and roasted meat filled the air. As Nia handed plates to customers, she noticed something unusual. A group of tourists walked through the market, their eyes wide with curiosity. They looked at the colorful stalls, especially those selling handmade baskets, wooden carvings, and Maasai beadwork. But they seemed confused, unsure where to buy or how to tell what was authentic. Some bought quickly and walked away, while others left without buying anything at all. Nia kept watching. This happened again and again. Tourists wanted real Tanzanian crafts, but there was no system, no one guiding them. An idea began to grow inside her mind, and it felt different from anything she had thought of before. What if I could be the link? What if I could take these crafts beyond the market, to people all over the world? That night, she pulled out her journal and wrote furiously. Export handmade crafts. Sell online. Show the world Tanzania's beauty. She didn't know exactly how to start, but the thought filled her with energy. This was not just about earning money. It was about creating something big, something new. When she shared the idea with her mother smiled softly, unsure but supportive. But when her grandmother heard about it, she burst out laughing. "A child's dream," Mama Asha scoffed. "Who in the world will buy from you? You cannot even keep your own money safe. And now you think you will do business with foreigners? Foolish girl." Neighbors weren't much kinder. Some laughed, saying she was wasting her time. Others told her to focus on something real like farming or working as a housemaid. The doubt was heavy, but Nia refused to let it crush her. She remembered the pain of betrayal, the sting of humiliation, and decided this time she would not let anyone stop her. With the little money she still had, she bought a few crafts, hand-woven baskets, wooden giraffes, and colorful beaded necklaces. She borrowed a friend's old smartphone and used free internet at a cafe in town to post pictures online. The beginning was slow. Sometimes days passed without a single inquiry. But Nia kept pushing. She learned how to reply politely to customers, how to take better photos, how to package items for shipping. Her first real sale came from a woman in Germany who wanted Maasai jewelry. Nia wrapped the beads carefully, sent them off, and prayed they would arrive safely. When the woman later wrote back saying she loved them and wanted more, Nia's heart leapt. It was a small win, but it meant the idea was not just a dream. It could work. Nia knew she was taking a big risk, but she also knew this was her chance. For the first time, she felt like she was holding the seed of something that could change not only her life, but the lives of many others too. And she was ready to water it with every ounce of her determination. Nia named her small online shop Nia Creations. At first, it was just her and a few items she managed to post online, but slowly orders started coming in. A necklace here, a basket there, small purchases, but they gave her hope. Each time she saw a notification of a new order, she felt her heart beat faster. Foreign buyers loved the products. They left messages saying how beautiful and unique the crafts were. Some even told her they wanted to come to Tanzania one day because of the items they had bought from her. Nia poured herself into the work. She woke up early to visit local artisans, watching how they carved wood, wove baskets, and made colorful beadwork. She treated each piece with care, making sure it was well packaged before sending it overseas. She learned how to communicate with customers politely, how to track shipments, and how to keep proper records of money. Every dollar she earned, she reinvested. Instead of spending on herself, she bought more stock, improved her packaging, and saved for larger shipments. At first, people in the village mocked her again. "She thinks she is doing international business," they laughed. "Soon she will fail, just like before." But as time passed, the laughter began to fade. They saw boxes being sent out, money coming in, and Nia walking with a new sense of confidence. Whispered voices replaced the mocking. Maybe she isn't so useless after all. Maybe the girl has something after all. Her grandmother, however, remained stubborn. Mama Asha refused to admit she was impressed, though deep down she was starting to notice the change. Nia, instead of arguing, simply kept working harder. She told herself, I don't need to fight with words. My success will speak for me. As orders grew, she realized she couldn't do everything alone. One day, while speaking to the women at the market, she offered them a chance. If you can help me make crafts, I will pay you. Together, we can sell to the world. At first, they looked at her in disbelief. How could a young girl provide work for them? But when she handed them money after the first batch sold, their doubt turned into trust. Slowly, she built a small team of women who created beautiful handmade products, each one carrying a piece of Tanzanian culture. Nia worked tirelessly, often sleeping late into the night while writing emails to customers in different time zones. She wasn't just building a business. She was building proof that a girl who once sold maize by the roadside could rise beyond everyone's expectations. Her room, once filled with old school books and a hidden journal, now had shelves stacked with crafts ready for shipping. Every sale, every shipment, every happy customer reminded her that she was no longer that child mocked in a torn uniform. She was becoming something new, an entrepreneur, a leader, and an inspiration. And though the road was still long, Nia knew she was finally rising against all odds. Years passed, and what once began with a small basket of crafts had now grown into something far bigger than Nia ever imagined. Nia Creations was no longer just a small online shop. It had become a thriving company, reaching customers across East Africa and beyond. She had built partnerships with artisans from Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, bringing together some of the finest handmade crafts in the region. Her website was buzzing with orders every week, and foreign buyers trusted her name. Nia had gone from packaging necklaces in her tiny room to managing warehouses filled with products ready for shipping. She now had employees, dozens of women who once struggled to feed their families but now earned steady income through her business. Some villagers who once mocked her now stood in line, asking for jobs. The whispers in the village had changed completely. People no longer said, she is useless. Instead, they said, that girl is changing lives. Her biggest moment came when she signed a partnership deal with an international company that wanted to distribute her crafts in Europe and the US. The deal was worth $1 million. As she held the pen to sign, Nia felt her hands tremble. She thought of every insult, every mocking laugh, every time her grandmother had called her worthless. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were tears of victory. She had proven them all wrong, not with anger but with hard work, persistence, and vision. When the money came through, Nia didn't rush to buy luxury cars or gold jewelry like many expected. Her first thought was her mother. She remembered her patched dresses, her tired hands, and the way she had carried their struggles without ever giving up. With joy in her heart, Nia bought her mother a beautiful house in Dar es Salaam. It had strong walls, a tiled roof, and a big kitchen where her mother could cook without worrying about smoke from a charcoal stove. The day she handed her mother the keys, her mother broke down crying. She walked through every room, touching the walls in disbelief. My daughter, she whispered, is this really ours? Nia hugged her tightly and replied, it's yours, Mama. You never gave up on me. Now it's my turn to give you the life you deserve. For Nia, that moment meant more than the $1 million deal. It was proof that the poor girl who once sold roasted maize at the roadside had transformed her story completely. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. She had gone from humiliation to honor, from laughter to respect. And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The world had finally started to recognize her name, but the little girl with a hidden journal in Kisongo would never forget where she came from. Every insult had become fuel, and now her success was the fire burning bright for everyone to see. The day of Mama Asha's 80th birthday arrived, and the entire family gathered at her home in Kisongo. The air was filled with laughter, the smell of cooked food, and the sound of children running around. Relatives had traveled from different places to honor the old woman. Everyone carried gifts, baskets of food, a new kitenge, some blankets. The mood was warm and festive, but no one expected anything extraordinary. After all, birthdays in the village were usually simple. When Nia walked in, the room grew quiet. She was no longer the thin girl in torn uniform. She carried herself with grace and quiet confidence, wearing a simple but elegant dress. Some relatives whispered to each other as she entered, still not fully used to the new Nia, who had become known far beyond the village. But everyone expected her gift to be something ordinary too. Perhaps some nice clothes for grandma or a basket of food. After the songs were sung and the cake was cut, the family began handing Mama Asha their gift. She smiled, nodding with gratitude at each one. Then Nia stepped forward. She held a small, neatly wrapped box in her hand. Unlike the others, it was light and didn't seem to hold much. People exchanged curious glances. Nia knelt in front of her grandmother and said softly, "Happy birthday, Bibi. This gift is from my heart." She placed the box in Mama Asha's hand. The old woman unwrapped it slowly, her fingers trembling with age. Inside was not clothing, not food, but an envelope. She opened it, and her eyes widened as she pulled out a check. The room fell silent. Written on it was a donation of $1 million, made in Mama Asha's name, to create a fund for women's education in Tanzania. Gasps filled the room. Some people covered their mouths in shock. Others leaned closer, unable to believe what they were seeing. Mama Asha's hands shook so much that the paper nearly slipped from her fingers. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She stared at her granddaughter, the same girl she had once called worthless, the same girl she had told neighbors would never amount to anything. Tears welled in her eyes, running down her wrinkled cheeks. The family was stunned. No one moved. No one spoke for several moments. All eyes were on Nia, who stood there quietly, not boasting, not gloating, just offering the gift with a gentle smile. Finally, Mama Asha's voice broke through the silence, shaky and low. "My child, what have you done?" Nia knelt again and held her grandmother's hand. "Bibi, you once said I would never be remembered. Today, I want you to know that your name will live on forever, through the education of women, through every girl who will now have a chance to chase her dream." At that moment, the whispers, the insults, the laughter of the past all faded away. The entire family, and even the neighbors who had once mocked her, looked at Nia with awe. The girl they had doubted had turned her pain into something powerful. And the old woman, trembling and speechless, held the proof in her hand. Mama Asha held the check in her trembling hands, her tears falling freely. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. The woman who had once mocked her granddaughter, who had told neighbors that Nia would never amount to anything, now sat in silence, her chest heaving with emotion. Finally, she reached out, pulling Nia into her arms. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Forgive me, child, you are my pride." The room filled with quiet sniffles as relatives wiped their eyes. Neighbors who had once laughed at Nia, who had whispered behind her back when she sold maize and oranges, now stared at her with nothing but respect. The girl they had dismissed had risen higher than anyone thought possible. And she had not only lifted herself, she was lifting others, giving countless women the chance to build brighter futures. Nia hugged her grandmother tightly, feeling the weight of years of pain finally lift from her heart. She did not need revenge, nor did she need to throw insults back at those who once hurt her. Her success had spoken louder than any words ever could. As the evening light faded and the family gathered close, Nia stood and looked around the room. Her voice was calm but firm, carrying the strength of her journey. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the greatest revenge is not anger but success." The words lingered in the air, touching every soul present. From that day forward, Nia was no longer the poor girl in torn clothes. She was a symbol of strength, a reminder that even the most painful beginnings can lead to the most powerful ending. And for the first time, her community looked at her not with doubt, but with deep, lasting respect.